In today's show, the Blazers are dealing with a whole slew of injuries, including Donovan Clingan likely to miss an extended chunk of time. Plus, we answer your questions in a mailbag edition of the program. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're dealing with the dreaded triple PDF. Longtime listeners will know that if an injury is bad, the Blazers send out a press release on a PDF. And folks, we got 3 names on that PDF today. We'll talk about those injuries and who is in and who is out in the immediate future versus the Pacers on Wednesday and others going forward. Plus, we'll answer listener submitted questions in a mini mailbag, special delivery mailbag episode of the program, talking about long-term futures of some veteran players, what to do with Rob Williams, and an offense that shoots a lot of bricks. Let's start with the news, the dreaded triple PDF. I mentioned on yesterday's program that there was some injury stuff, but we hadn't seen a PDF come out, and that's always, it's good news. No news is good news on the PDF front, but when something bad happens, when a player is going to miss an extended period of time, the Blazers put out an official press release, an official injury report, and that comes via email to the media. They also release it on social media and their website. I just somehow obsess over the PDF itself because it's a funny thing for the podcast. Thanks for listening. I got the email. It had a PDF. It had 3 names on it. Crap. The big one at the top, rookie Donovan Clingan, was diagnosed with a grade 2 MCL sprain in his left knee and will be reevaluated in 2 weeks. Yikes. Dang it. I mentioned on yesterday's show that Josh Lloyd of Locked On Fantasy Basketball had reported that Clingan's knee injury was going to be, out for at least 1 to 2 weeks, and that seems like at least that's the minimum evaluated. According to the PDF, according to the press release from Blazers, Clingan received additional imaging, so he got an MRI, and then that revealed the grade 2 MCL sprain. 2 weeks to be reevaluated does not sound like a likely return to the court, however. Of course, reevaluation date is not a return date. You'll notice some language I'm going to share with you about Matisse Thybulle's injury is a very different language. It's important to read the words because they mean stuff. But the reevaluation date, first of all, players get evaluated every day, but maybe an official reevaluation. But it seems like it's going to be a little bit longer than that. The incomparable Jeff Stotts, who owns and operates In Street Clothes, InStreetClothes.com. It is a database dating back 20 years, couple decades, where Jeff documents sports injuries. Jeff is a medical professional who's worked in the sports medical field and also has, works in the sort of sports media updating injury information type of field. He's done some work for Roto World, etc., and Yahoo Sports as well. But Jeff has the database on sports injuries. When folks get hurt, Jeff knows things, and Jeff says that since the 2005-2006 season, grade 2 MCL sprains, also known as a partial or incomplete tears, have resulted in an average time lost of approximately 41 days and approximately 22 games. Other players who have sustained the injury include Rudy Gobert, Marc Gasol, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant. That is concerning Donovan Clingan's injury. 41 days on average, 22 games on average. We're talking the new year. We're talking January. Dang it. Because Cling was just playing so well. He was already a positively impactful player despite having almost nothing to give on offense, right? Like he was really, really limited with what he brought to the table offensively, and even with very little on that end, the way he rebounded, the way he set screens, the way he defends and understands how to defend, like he had real value just based on what he was at age 20, just kind of figuring it out and learning the league, and you felt like he was really going to build on things, and he was one of the most entertaining parts of the Blazers' young season, was kind of watching a rookie big man figure out how to be good in the league, and already it had some pretty impressive games. His 8-block game against Minnesota is probably the best single performance that a Blazers had this year. Shoot. It stinks. I don't even, I'm laughing because I don't know what to say. Injuries are part of it. They're part of this is how the sport works. Every year players get injured. Bummer for Donovan Clingan. He's not the only name on the PDF, unfortunately. Matisse Thybulle is also on there. Thybulle sustained a right ankle sprain while ramping up in an effort to return to the court. Thybulle, right before the season, had a procedure on his knee. He's working out, trying to get back up and going through individual workouts as he's trying to get back on the court, dealing with that knee injury. And he had sustained a grade 2 ankle sprain in his right ankle. He had an MRI that confirmed it. He's expected to miss 3 to 6 weeks, according to the Trailblazers. So that puts him in the, Christmas, post-Christmas, New Year type of range, January type of range. That's a bummer because it means that Thybulle's going to miss almost half the season to kick off the year. He wasn't going to have a huge minute role if he played. In fact, I think he was going to add to some confusion about who plays and when, but you want the confusion, right? You want the team to be healthy and to have all of the options and to mix and match and see the combinations that work. That's the whole point of this thing, right? I hope Thybulle gets better soon and gets back and can play and be a contributor this year, because a lost season would be a true bummer for him. The only other name on the PDF in the triple PDF situation is Robert Williams. He's been placed in the NBA's concussion protocol. Williams did not come out after halftime of Monday's game in Memphis. He did not return in the second half, and they said he was being checked for. They said he hadn't been put in concussion protocol. The language, they're really careful about it. But now he's been placed in concussion protocol. He'll have to pass through the return to play steps in order to be cleared to play. But he is out on Wednesday against the Pacers. So no Thybulle, no Williams, obviously no Donovan Clingan for an extended period. That stinks. That's a bummer. Here's some other news, though, because we're injury report watching. Jeremy Grant's not ruled out. He left after the first 2 minutes of the second half against Memphis on Monday. He is doubtful with that left knee injury, so I think that's probably good news. No PDF for Jeremy Grant, and not initially ruled out. Although I think it would be relatively surprising if he played. If he's knee injury that caused him to miss the game and still listed as doubtful, this is a total guess, but I would guess that Jeremy Grant doesn't play. Here's some actual good news, though. DeAndre Ayton, who has been oft listed in recent games as doubtful, missed the last 3 games with a doubtful designation, has been upgraded to questionable for Wednesday against the Pacers. No Donovan Clingan, no Rob Williams. You're looking at Duop Reith and Jabari Walker as your 2 centers. That's a challenge. Although the Pacers have been playing with old friend Moses Brown in the middle a little bit, so maybe it's not as dire as you might have once thought. But getting DA back, although he adds some confusion to shots and points and minutes and style stuff, they just need help in the middle, and he would certainly be an upgrade over their current options. He's questionable, still dealing with that deep bruise in his right index finger. Scoot Henderson's still listed as questionable with a back strain. If he were to miss Wednesday night's game, he'd miss basically a week since getting into a car accident that the Blazers really haven't given us much details on. Some of that is the nature of reporting now. Not a lot of folks on the road to ask questions during a long road trip. It is a challenge of modernity. And Chris Murray is also on the injury report, questionable with a sternum bruise. A lot of names on the list. The last guys I mentioned, not on the PDF. Thybulle, Clingan, and Rob Williams on the PDF. Everyone else just on the standard injury report, which does not come in PDF form. It comes in the form of a tweet. I think, obviously we'll see how long Rob Williams misses. Concussions are so hard to know, right? It's like everybody's brain is different. You assume it's not a super long period of time, although there definitely have been folks who, when I've covered the league, have missed a week with concussion stuff, just not being able to get back to through the return to play protocol. But if you assume he's only out for maybe just Wednesday and can come back Friday, then the center rotation is not that challenging. If Rob misses an extended period of time and DeAndre Ayton comes back and is like, either if he's able to play Wednesday, that does offer some clarity. If he's not, they're really thin up front all of a sudden. It's nice that they had 4 centers plus Jabari Walker who can play a little bit of center. Plus they've been trying Denny Avdia at center, but they went from being like really big and deep up front to all of a sudden having some challenges there. Let's do some mailbag stuff. We got questions from listeners. I solicited those questions on social media. They sent them to me. We'll answer them in the second segment. Join all of us. Join the gang in the second segment. We got a special delivery mailbag waiting for you on the other side. First, though, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by Robinhood. Look, with Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. That's Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for product-specific disclosures. Visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risks. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and the official sportsbook partner, and official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And right now they want you to tackle the NFL action because new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, you can view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page in the app where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. Let's shift gears a little bit. Enough doom, enough gloom of injuries. They're part of the game. They stink, but they're part of the game. It's just the reality of it. It is an absolute bummer that you don't get to watch every player that you enjoy as often as you'd like, but that's how it works. Instead, we'll answer some questions relating to the big picture stuff with the Portland Trailblazers. These questions were sent to me on the social media website application Blue Sky. If you're into that type of thing, I'm on there, Mike G. Rich. I don't really like social media. It does not make me feel good to do posts, so maybe not the best place to follow me, but I am there if you want to hang a little bit and see me send out, 7 posts a year or something like that. And today, because some interview stuff did not work out, reached out to 2 friends. Neither of them were available on short notice. It happens. So we are running an emergency special delivery mailbag. This first question comes from Alex Tam on Blue Sky, who asks, how would you rank? Shout out to Alex Tam. I think Alex and I missed each other, ships in the night. We both covered high school sports briefly. Alex used to work out in Wilsonville and Canby when I covered high school sports all over the metro area. And then I think Alex worked at the Oregonian after I left. Ships in the night. We worked in media circles, but never together. Shout out to you, Alex. Alex asks, how would you rank from who's most likely to stay long-term to who's most likely to be traded? The following players: Anthony Simons, DeAndre Ayton, Rob Williams, Jeremy Grant, and Matisse Thybulle. Okay, let's rank them 1 through 5 on most likely, starting with the most likely to stay, moving towards the most likely to be traded. Most likely to stay, number 1 with a bullet, Jeremy Grant. It's just math. He's under contract for 3 more years after this. He's most likely to stay because inaction would allow him to be on the team the longest. I think Jeremy Grant probably has neutral trade value around the league. I don't think his salary number is that crazy, although there are smart people who think his salary number is that crazy. Shout out to John Hollinger. But I think it's the length. It's in this new CBA environment, teams that are interested in having Jeremy Grant for, if they were trade for him, at this trade deadline for playoff runs, is relatively low, right? Like that's just a long-term commitment to teams that value flexibility. But I don't think the number is crazy when Grant is playing well, although he's been up and down a little bit this season. But just he's the most likely to stick around for a long period of time because of just inaction would allow him to still be here. And I don't think the Blazers are desperate to trade him because he's not necessarily like in anybody's very specific way. He can fit with the plan just fine. Number 2, under that same sort of logic, I have Anthony Simons among the 5 as the second most likely to stick around for a long period of time. This is basically a diet caffeine-free CJ McCollum situation. I have been saying the Blazers should be exploring trades for Anthony Simons since last February, since the trade deadline last year. I am famously not a decision maker within the franchise. I am just some dude. I don't think they share that opinion. Seems pretty clear they didn't try to trade Anthony Simons in any meaningful way over the last 2 acquisition cycles, player movement cycles. Not at the trade deadline, not in the summertime. It's just like not something they explored. The more that they don't explore it, the more likely he's still on the team. I would say the young guards have not like so far surpassed his production. Anthony Simons has been bad this year, and even then, I think he's probably still been better than Scoot Henderson. Or if Scoot Henderson's been better, it's not enough to be like so clear. And I think that's the pretty damning part of their situation, where it's like, yeah, Scoot's been a little bit better and Anthony Simons has been horrendous. So like that doesn't make you feel super comfortable about it. In my personal opinion, that should not color their decision-making, but it very well may color their decision-making. I think Anthony Simons on this list is the second most likely to stick around. Third is just who ended up in third. I think it's Matisse Thybulle. He will be entering the final year of his contract next year. He makes a very tradable amount of money, amount of money that fits into the mid-level trade exception. I don't think he has great standalone trade value. I think he's more of like a sweetener type of player in a deal, and even then, I don't know how sweet he makes it. I don't really know what to make of Matisse Thybulle's future. We haven't seen him play this year, which I think is clouding a little bit of my I don't know what to make of it, because it's been a while since we've seen him play. He really struggled with his shot at the end of last year, and that's a big part of this. If he had shot better at the end of last season, he probably would have been much more appealing trade piece, but his shooting really tailed off in 2024 once the calendar flipped. But he might not play again until 2025, so the calendar is going to flip back, baby, and maybe Matisse will be the 3-and-D wing you've always dreamed of. He's a good defensive player, but the offense is always a question. He's third on the list. Fourth is DeAndre Ayton. The Blazers can't possibly have watched DeAndre Ayton play last year and the beginning of this season and they'd be thinking to themselves, we want more of this. That cannot possibly be their logic. It might be. Certainly I've been wrong before, and certainly I don't always see eye to eye with the way the franchise makes decisions. Like that's kind of the nature of doing this. I'm certainly not implying that I know more or better than people who run an NBA team, but I certainly hold different opinions, and my personal opinion is they can't possibly want more DeAndre Ayton. I thought about flipping him with Thybulle because I think Ayton is not particularly tradable, but they also have the same length of contract, both of them with 1 year remaining after this one. So, again, inaction leads you to the same results, and perhaps the Blazers are more motivated to try to trade an expiring $35 million contract to someone because it can maybe get another team into a situation where it helps their financial goals and the Blazers accomplish some asset acquisition goals of their own once we get to next summer. Although, I can't imagine DeAndre Ayton has a frothy trade market. He had a really low trade value when he arrived in Portland, and it is almost impossible to believe for one particular podcaster that his trade value would have increased based on his production as a member of the Portland Trail Blazers. But still, Ayton, I guess, is fourth least likely, second most likely trade candidate, fourth least likely long-term candidate, and the most likely to be traded or most likely to be out the door quickly, I have Rob Williams. Rob is an interesting piece, right? Because the question for Rob is not talent, it's availability. I think he's the Blazers' best big man. I think when he plays, he's very clearly the Blazers' best big man, and he has some value. He doesn't have much individual offense, but he's good enough at being a connective part of an offensive unit that he can add some value there, and particularly on teams with better offensive players, I think you would be able to get more out of Rob than what the Blazers can with their current crop of coworkers they have put around him. He makes the right amount of money, like Matisse Thybulle, where he fits into that mid-level trade exception, a new part of the CBA that we haven't seen in action yet, but I bet we eventually will. Rob seems like the type of dude who can play in the playoffs for good teams. He's been, he's really good during the 2022 championship or title finals run. They didn't win the championship or the title. They just made the finals in 2022, the Celtics. He was a big part of that. Yeah, I think he could help. I think he's your most likely guy to be traded, assuming health. And that's a big assumption. And again, we're just, as long as we're grading on the inaction scale, he's inaction would also have him out the door faster than Jeremy Grant. And so everyone else ties on the inaction scale. That's your rankings. Most likely to stay in order: Jeremy Grant, Anthony Simons, Matisse Thybulle, DeAndre Ayton, and Rob Williams. Thanks for the question, Alex. Okay, join me in the third segment. We got more questions. We'll actually talk a lot about Rob Williams, a little bit about Anthony Simons' fit next to the Blazers' other young guard duo, and why the Blazers stink on offense. Join me in that third segment, won't ya? First, though, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by BILT. You might be looking outside on a rainy Tuesday. You're listening actually to Wednesday's program. So maybe you're looking outside on a rainy Wednesday in Portland, Oregon, and you're like, I would like to go somewhere warmer, somewhere drier, and maybe you want to use points to do so. You want to book flights, and you want to book hotel rooms, and you want to book, vacation experiences using points you earn. Maybe you're a points person. Well, here's a life hack for you. BILT lets you earn points on rent payments and redeem them towards all of those things: flights, hotels, and a lot more. One of your biggest investments should get you more than just a roof over your head. Let me explain. There's no cost to join BILT, and as a member, you will earn valuable points on rent and on your everyday spending. BILT points can be transferred to your favorite hotels, airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world where you can redeem your BILT points rewards. Points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only BILT members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, why not? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by go to joinbilt.com/lockedonnba. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnba. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. Joinbilt.com/lockedonnba to start earning points on your rent payments today. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you, dear listener, are still listening to Locked On Blazers. Still rolling along with a special delivery mailbag. Next question comes from Kenny's G League, who also sent this to me on the social media application Blue Sky. Kenny's G League asks, I like Rob Williams. The Blazers seem to really like Rob Williams, but should they? That has an ellipses. That's how you read an ellipses. It's a professional line read of an ellipses. How should a rebuilding team balance keeping vets with a winning mentality that could help development versus trading them for future assets? I think we got really similar questions on this particular program last year about Malcolm Brogdon. The perception was that he was this valuable leader and that he was somewhat valuable on the court, and whether a team should say, okay, he's just, and there were times last year, I think there was a big stretch of the season, particularly in January and February, when he was just like the best guard on the roster. So it was like, why not keep him? And my reasoning then is the same reasoning I probably hold with Rob Williams now, is that once you get to the trade deadline, that's like 55 games into the season. You hope that their watch has ended, that they have shared their wisdom, and that players can say, okay, we've played 60% of the season at this point. I'm ready to spread my wings because I have learned from the valuable input from a veteran leader. Now, having a veteran leader around at all times is important, and I have harped on this show many times about sort of, I think the Blazers, one of their missteps in building this roster is just a general lack of appreciation for like true veteran wisdom, for true institutional knowledge, and also like because some of their longer tenured players do not have the personality to be that sort of like vocal leader, emotional core that NBA teams can often benefit from. Rob does seem to be that to some extent, although I don't think he's a big rah yeller guy. He does seem to be someone who does things the right way, talks about doing things the right way, and is communicates to young players about doing things the right way. He seems to be someone, even though he is particularly young, not particularly old. I mean, at 27, is like someone who has the value of institutional knowledge, has been into deep into the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. The balance here is that what's the value? If Rob Williams is going to be traded for a couple second rounders, then yeah, maybe there's no value there, right? But if this is your path to get a first-round pick, particularly a lightly protected first-round pick, I think most likely you're talking like Rob Williams gets traded for something like a lottery protected or top 20 protected first-round pick, right? And then maybe it's like top 20 protected, top 15 protected, whatever, top 8 protected beyond that. And the team says like, listen, we're trading for Rob Williams. We think we're good and we're happy to give up something like the 26th pick in the NBA draft in order to do so, right? And I think that's like a reasonable expectation of Rob Williams' value and the money to make it work on either side, obviously, as well. If the Blazers value that, and they're going to know much more about the draft than some dumb podcaster, then that is the value proposition. Is the immediate return on assets more valuable than the intrinsic and the on-court stuff and sort of the intrinsic soft stuff that Rob brings as a veteran? That's what you're valuing. To me, if there is a first-round pick available, it's kind of a no-brainer. And if there isn't a first-round pick available, then it gets a little bit dicey. But also, like, minutes are zero-sum. Like, you only have so many minutes to play. And if you get to a part of the season where you really want to play Donovan Clingan 28 minutes a night, having less centers to be clogging the way could be an issue. Health obviously will dictate some of this decision making, but I think what the Blazers should do is they probably should look to trade Rob Williams, because I believe he is maybe their most tradable, non Shaedon Sharpe asset, right? Like among the vets that are likely to be traded, he's certainly the one that seems to have the most value in and of itself on the market based on his talent and his contract situation. They should explore those trades, and then on the back end, the back side of this, like all summer long, still value veteran leadership. It doesn't have to be one person, but it does have to be a type. It doesn't have to be Rob, but building another roster without the value of institutional knowledge and maybe without like that sort of emotional core type of vocal leader would be a misstep. So whether that is, you realize that it has to be Rob Williams based on his trade value, or could be someone else that you value in the summertime on a freaking veteran minimum deal, make sure you do that, because it would be a misstep to run it back with another team that's just like, yeah, we've got some dudes who've been around the league, but they're not real vocal out there. We'll do our best. It's a tough balance. This next question comes from Evan M., who asks, also from the Blue Sky social media application. Evan M. Asks, we have seen since day one that Scoot Henderson next to Anthony Simons isn't a great fit. Are we now seeing that Anthony Simons and Shaedon Sharpe are also not the best fit together? I think here's the real truth. Anthony Simons has sucked this year, and so when you're bad, you're not a good fit next to anyone. The end. I think we can. I think we can get deeper into the weeds about Anthony Simons' shortcomings. Right, he is not a natural playmaker, although he has taken very obvious positive steps in that direction through the course of his career. He's very, 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 very clearly improved from early in his career when he was not good at it at all. And even then, he's not like a natural playmaker. He's a scorer. He sees the rim before his teammates. But I will say, I believe a season ago, particularly that Simons was better at accepting pressure of a double team and making decisions out of those double teams. Better at it. Was he great at it? No. And really physical double teams could still trip him up, and that was like the easiest way to sort of neutralize him, was send a physical double team and like make him get off the ball, and he won't be great at it, and he won't get it back with a lot of with a lot of sort of danger added. But he he hasn't been nearly as good at accepting that pressure, at generating that type of attention and creating that sort of on-ball gravity, as people like to say, in order to like give his team to create advantages. He just hasn't been as good at it this year, and he's shooting horribly this season. When you can't shoot and you don't command, like I think there's a lot to be said for, smart people suggest that a volume of threes attempted is actually draws more defensive attention than accuracy from three. If you're a low volume guy who makes them, they still don't care. If you're a high volume guy, even if you miss a little bit, they care. So there is, Anfernee Simons does get guarded a little bit more than, say, they guard Toumani Camara, but not enough at the level he's shooting right now. Ant has some challenges as a playmaker. He's not going to be a high-level playmaker. But really, moreover, if he's also not a threat off the ball, he just doesn't fit with either of these gentlemen. I have been banging the drum on this for months, and I'll bang it one more time for those of you who need me to, is that I think last year what we realized is Anfernee Simons was not good enough to be a 1A head of the snake on a really good offensive team. He proved last year, when given that opportunity, that is not his capabilities. He didn't prove last year that he's just like an awful offensive player with no skills whatsoever, but he showed that he probably is not capable of leading an offense in and of himself. So he needs help, and Shaedon Sharpe can provide that help. But if Anfernee Simons can't provide the complementary help and he's shooting bricks, it doesn't matter. Fit doesn't matter. Fit doesn't matter. If you miss with everybody. And I think that's the issue. Anfernee Simons needs to play better, needs to get back to something approaching his career averages, or at least his averages over the last 2 seasons. And then you can talk about like fit. And if he never approaches them, he's a bad fit with everybody. The end. Final question comes from Kaylee, also from Blue Sky, who asks, the Blazers are last in the league in terms of offensive rating. How do we improve? That's a collective pronoun, baby. How do we improve? Shout out to collective pronouns. Shout out to Kaylee. Shout out to Basket Ghoul. Shout out to Dumania. Shout out to DB Hooper. Hijacking the game. Leaving with the cash. The Blazers are last in the league in effective field goal percentage. They're 29th in the league in turnover frequency, and they're below average 17th, although that's right around league average in free throw rate. So the thing that they're good at on offense is getting offensive rebounds. Those are your 4 factors. Making shots, protecting the ball, getting rebounds, and getting free throws. Those are your 4 factors. Dean Oliver's basketball on paper. These are the most important factors, at least according to one person, for winning basketball games. The most important thing the Blazers lack is shooters. They just don't have enough folks that can make shots. And if you can't make shots, teams pack the paint. And if you pack the paint, it gets harder to get to the rim, or you get to the rim in a crowd, or driving and kicking an offense. The Blazers offense is super vanilla, right? That's one of the big issues with the Blazers offense, super vanilla. And it's predicated a lot on drive and kick. Make a play, cause the defense to create an advantage by getting into the paint, make the defense help, get them in rotation, swing the ball, take perimeter jumpers, or drive kickouts, drive closeouts, and get to the rim. That's the idea of the Blazers offense. The function of the Blazers offense is that even when folks collapse the defense on drives, they're kicking out to shooters that teams aren't as scared of. They're not closing out hard on those shooters, or they are closing out on those hard on those shooters because they're not worried about those guys as drivers and finishers. The most important thing they could do is have players who are better at shooting. That's the path forward. They just don't have enough positive shooters, and that was obvious heading into the season. It was just they didn't have enough positive shooters. They have, and I commend them for this, they have said, you know what, we might not be great at shooting, but we understand what a modern offense looks like, so we're going to take a reasonable number of threes. The only way you can make threes in the NBA is to take them. The teams that take fewer threes are generally worse on offense. That's just kind of the math, how it works in the modern NBA. You don't need to chase 50, but you probably need to take 35 plus to be competitive in any NBA game now. 40 is maybe the threshold where you're like, yeah, maybe that's too many, but taking fewer than 35 is probably a mistake in the modern NBA. It is too hard to be competitive. You need shooters. You can't space the floor. Denny Avdia is not a shooter. Toumani Camara is not a shooter. Shaedon Sharpe, in theory, could be a shooter at some point, has not been a shooter. Scoot Henderson can't shoot. Anfernee Simons totally forgot how to shoot, I guess. Jeremy Grant is your shooter. That's kind of it. Even the young sort of the younger bench parts, the Ryan Rupert's, Chris Murray's, they don't have just like that shooter type, right? To loosen things up. They didn't add Malik Beasley like the Pistons did. Like, hey, let's just get a veteran shooter and see if that helps grease the wheels a little bit. I think they have different goals than the current Pistons, to be clear. So the number one thing they can do is just have better players that are more likely to make shots on the roster. The talent is always going to be the number one thing. Certainly coaching is a problem. And I also think general playmaking is a problem. They don't have enough high-level playmakers, and this is an Anthony Simons thing. I think it's currently a Scoot Henderson thing. It's a Shaedon Sharpe thing. Enough high-level playmakers. There's like your scorers that attack and can get into cracks and make plays for others in order to create and generate easier looks. Not enough good passers, not enough good shot makers, not a team that is really, really good at getting to the free throw line. All of that is going to lead to the worst offense in the league. And you throw that on top of a relatively basic offensive structure, you're going to struggle. I think it was kind of obvious the Blazers would be one of the 5 worst teams on offense in the league, just based on their talent heading into the season. All of those factors in circling themselves together lead you to this, which is the worst offense in the league. The good thing is, only way to go from 30 is up. You cannot be 31st. That is going to do it for today's show. Tomorrow's show, we'll recap the Blazers game against the Indiana Pacers. They play on Wednesday evening to wrap up a 5-game road trip. So you will have a podcast episode waiting in your feed, whether you're an audio listener or a YouTube viewer, on Thanksgiving morning. It's American Thanksgiving. Shout out to my international listeners. You will not have one on Friday. I'm just not going to record one. If my bosses at Lockdown are listening, it's a holiday, y'all. I'm taking it off. I'm going to spend time with my family. I'm going to live my life, and I'm not going to record a podcast. If something crazy happens, sure, I'll run down here and record a podcast. I'm going to be in my house, or at least close to my house, all day long. So, like, if something crazy happens, I'll record a show, but don't look for it on Friday. Thanksgiving, you'll have one. Friday, you won't. We'll be back next week with 5 more of these. Is what we do 5 days a week, or this week, 4 of them. Wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.